Hi everybody, it's so nice to see you again. And I'm sitting with my wonderful friend Jack Gindi, who I met when he cast me as his mother in the film he directed, he wrote, and he starred in.
Joseph DiNardo speaking.
Joey, I'd watch her.
What kind of a mother tells her daughter to go to a bar?
Keep looking! And it was an amazing experience because when I walked in, there was this kid and he was going to audition me, and I thought, whoa, who is this? And I don't know how he picked me for his mother, but I'm going to ask him now. Here is the wonderful Jack Gindi, and he's going to tell you how he picked me as his mother, and then I'll tell you a wonderful story after that. How did it happen?
Okay.
This is Jack Gindi, everybody.
Hello there. It happened when you came in. Initially, I thought, wow, that's very good. Your look was very much like my look. We could be conceivably mother and son.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it was amazing, especially when you're casting and you're seeing lots of women come in for this role and you're thinking, maybe not. But the minute you walked in, I thought, whoa. Yes.
Really? Is that amazing? This is the thing I think is so marvelous to talk about, is your reaction is, whoa. And how many times we have all auditioned and everything else, and when do you get somebody to go, whoa? I mean, it's just so important.
It is, and it happens. But then the acting has to match too. You got to understand the vibe of the piece and the flow of the scene, and you have to look into my eyes and give me the lines and really accomplish.
Did you read opposite me? I don't think you did.
I don't think so. No, because I was really rather concentrated on you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I don't want to be.
Yeah.
And you delivered. You got it right away. I don't even think I gave you an adjustment. I thought, wow, that's a good actress.
That's what we want. That's what we want somebody to say, wow. But then the great story is, which I love this story. We did the whole film and it was so much fun to do. I mean, you killed yourself. I remember the nights that we did this and you had been going day and night. And at one point, I don't remember what happens before, but I took Jack's face and I said to him something, and I went and kissed him on the cheek. And that was part of the scene. Well, we showed it to your family. There was a big party where everybody was seeing it, and his mother came up to me and she said, "Did Jack tell you that I do that?" And I went, "Oh no, it was so wonderful to think that she did that to her baby Jack, and here I was holding him, the same thing." It was really lovely.
She really did. She did that exact thing. She would hold on to my cheek and just not let go. She was adorable.
She was adorable.
Yeah,
yes,
she was
indeed.
great. She was great.
Well, then the other thing that Jack, after we became son and he was my son. That was what happened for the rest of our lives. I mean, but I don't think of him as my son anymore. I mean, I think of him as the same age as I am, even though that's not possible, but I always think that's the way it is. Anyway, I decided to do a one-person show. And there's only one person I decided that would help me as a director, and that's Jack. We went through, how long did it take us?
A few years. I mean, we did a lot of different versions. Do you remember? We did it in a lot of different locations, and we kept on enriching it and making it more specific to you. And we really honed in on what you were trying to say at each point in your development, from your early career days until your present day career.
It was called On Becoming.
Yeah.
That the vice president's wife, the president's wife used my thing. But anyway.
Oh, right. Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama.
She took your title for her book.
She took my title.
Right, yes.
But she said Just Becoming. I did On Becoming.
On Becoming. And it was a really interesting journey into your life. and a musical journey because there was songs you would sing.
I long to be a prima donna. I long to shine upon the stage with my avoirdupois and my tra-la-la-la-la. I could be the next sensation of the age.
After having told a story, and the songs kind of helped the story move along, and it was beautifully told and beautifully done.
Can we tell the story about the songs when your daddy died? Do you mind if I tell that story?
No, that's okay.
I did not realize that this was...
It was my father had passed away, and it was in the year of his mourning, and Jewish custom is not to be
listening to live music?
Music, yes, correct, yes. Not to have any musical experiences and celebratory experiences. And usually music is celebratory. That's what music is. It's a... How do you explain music? You know, it transforms the soul. So at one point we were rehearsing, and we would work on the acting, and then she would just be about to sing a song, and I would leave.
He would walk out of the room.
I'd walk out onto the street.
Oh, it was really something.
Wait 3 minutes.
The first time.
Come back in.
First time I thought, what's the matter?
I didn't tell you what I was doing?
You didn't tell me until I said, Jack, is everything okay? You said, no, it's okay. And then you told me the thing about which I was fascinated by, because I didn't realize that you have to go to synagogue in the morning and at night. And so he was still directing me, which was so much fun. We had the greatest time together, because once you do a piece like your piece, you seem to understand somebody in a way that maybe, he understood me.
Oh, shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in.
And
how you work.
Yeah.
And your work ethic.
Yeah.
And how you get from A to B to C. And you're lucky if you're a director, if you work with a performer who you can communicate with, and you can understand, and you can, because it's a very arduous process. It just is. There's so much to it, and you have to be in sync. And you have to trust each other. You have to allow the actor to do the actor thing, and the director to do the director thing, and hopefully they will mesh.
And sometimes
they don't.
And sometimes when you would say something, I'd get very angry, because I'm in the middle of something, I'd get very angry, and then I would realize that Jack was right, but I had to get through my anger first.
Right, but that's why rehearsal is so interesting to me. That's such a great period, because you're discovering everything. Even though you have the script is written, it changes, because once a play is meant to be played, not to be read. Mm-hmm. So once you get the actor breathing life into this role, things change. Words change, meanings change. And if you, as an actress, can give it one path, and then another actress can do the same exact word, the same exact scene, and it's a totally different vibe. It's a totally different meaning, and it can work within the context of the play, but if that actress chooses to go that way, and you choose to go this way, and they're both valid, I, as the director, have to think, wow, does this work within the context of the play? Mm-hmm. And hopefully it does, and usually it does, because if the actor is a good actor, they know that they have a goal to interpret what the script says. That's the main thing. You gotta, it's all about the script. Mm-hmm. You gotta fulfill the script if you believe in the script and you believe the script is good. So every actor, that's the beauty of it. That's why there are, hundreds of Hamlets, and each one is different, with every role.
Their personal insides that makes them different. Their soul makes them different.
What you have to offer to the role is different what somebody else does, and they're both valid.
The other thing that Jack would do is, like he's saying this are both valid, he would hear something in the material. And he'd say, if you said it this way, and he always, it was wonderful. It was always the jokes were wonderful that he put in there. They were great jokes. Because my family was over the top.
Hello. I am Leah Luboschutz. I am Catherine's grandmother. Everyone calls me Lubo. I am a violinist, and I will tell you about me.
Jack knew that my family was over the top, and he encouraged the, what can I say? The lunacy.
You gotta have fun.
It was fun. It was
and
really...
the way you described your family, there were these bold, eccentric characters, and so talented and musical, and there's a whole lot of material right there. And of course, their stories and the way they partied and the way they celebrated and the way they lived was so extraordinary and above board. And if you want to relate that to an audience, you have to match their level of eccentricity. Gotta have fun.
I remember one of my friends came to see it who had not seen the play before. She was actually my sister's roommate at Sarah Lawrence. And she said, oh, it was so wonderful. It made me to go back to the being with them. Because they were, I mean, people used to say to me, why don't you tell about your family? Because it's so fascinating. And you do one show about them and that's enough. Because my brother wrote a book about them, and I mean, they were fabulous and wonderful, but your family is fascinating because it was totally different. Totally different. Yeah. And the fact that we have this kind of thing together, explain what you came from so that I think it's fascinating that you could know, and we get along so well together. And I mean, you just know me so well. It's amazing that what you come from.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was raised in Brooklyn, New York. Go Mets. And you know, a very close, tight-knit Jewish family, and with lots of relatives and lots of cousins in and out of the house all the time. And I think you had a similar experience.
Yeah.
Your uncles and your aunts and their kids. So we have that in common. That's a very personal thing. And I know when you write about your family, I think, well, my family acts the same way or doesn't act the same way, and I would ask you questions about that. Because sometimes my family would act differently, and I would say, does your family really do this every Sunday? And do they really go out onto the lake and play violin? And you would tell me yes or no, and then I would say, okay, let's make this work. Let's make this believable and enjoyable and entertaining and whimsical, you know?
It's like Tom Stoppart's play about when he discovered at 50 years old that he was Jewish.
Leopoldstadt?
Leopoldstadt. And the curtain goes up and I see, which is what my family was,
right,
a huge table and a Christmas tree. Because my mother, when she came to this country with my grandmother was touring all over and put my mother with some very, very wealthy people who had a big apartment, and they had a huge Christmas tree my mother had never seen before. And she said, when I have children, I'm going to have a Christmas tree. So I guess there's a way of being similar and not similar and things like that, and bringing us together, because there is something that you cannot erase that is deeply connected, I think, with all of us. If you ever came to my house at Christmas time, when we had we had all the people there, we had all of the musicians would come to our house, and I'm sure they were getting very drunk. I'm not sure. I didn't know about drinking at that age, but I knew that there was laughter and hysteria, and they would pass their instruments to the other person. So a pianist was playing a violin, and my mother was acting, and I mean, it was unbelievable. And they would tell these awful Jewish jokes that, you know, you knew where they came from because you were brought up that way. And I'm sure you not quite as raucous.
Yeah, we were not as colorful as all that.
You weren't raucous.
No, my family, you know, long line of businessmen. You know, they weren't artists.
Your father sounded like a wonderful.
My
Tell
father was
the
a
story
great
about
guy.
your father. This is
father.
so interesting because I go on about other things in the background, but the thing about the background creates the foreground. And Jack was in a totally different space and came out a creative individual. How that happened?
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody knows. I mean, even they were surprised. They were very surprised. They were like, okay, well, we don't know what this journey is going to be like. Go for it. And they helped me. And it really, really didn't cement until they came to see me in college. I was in a show, and at that time, you had to study for 2 years before they put you in a show. You had to take technique and improvisation and Shakespeare, all these, NYU.
Uh-huh.
The program that I was in, the Stella Adler program, they wouldn't allow you to perform until the end of your second year, which I did. And then they came to see the show. And they'd never seen me as high school a little bit. I didn't really do anything in high school. It was, you know, silly musicals, and I didn't really do anything. But then, when they saw me in a more professional situation, they got it. I remember. They came backstage the first show, and it was Kennedy's Children, and it was a really tough Vietnam War, and I played this drug addict who was a drug addict there, and then he saw these horrible things that came back, and it was before we even knew what PTSD was. And he was, you know, it was just monologues. It was like, I don't know how many characters, but each one just did monologues. It was monologue. There was no interaction between the characters.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting play. And I played this guy, this young kid who was at Vietnam, came back, and is wandering and a drug addict. So after the show, you know, I'm backstage, and, you know, with my friends, you're 20 years old, you're 19 years old, you're laughing, you're giggling, you know what I mean? And my parents walked in and they were like,
oh, how wonderful.
What is they couldn't even understand that this is a thing, this is a passion, this is a thing. And they hugged me, and they were like, they didn't have many words. They did not have many words. And it wasn't until years after where I realized what was happening. At the time I was like, okay, Dad, yeah, let's go get a beer. But they were so...
But the way they reacted to you made it possible for you to feel positive.
Yeah.
Now that to me is,
That's
go
very
on, finish
true.
the
That's
story.
very true. That is the story. That is very, because I know you had these same issues with your family because they were musicians and you were an actor, and so it's a different world and they didn't respect it as much. And certainly coming from the business world, my family, it wasn't like they were anti. They loved the theater. They loved going, and they loved music and concerts and stuff. But as a profession, they were unsure. And then when they saw me perform and they saw how passionate I was about it, then they're like, okay, this is your life. This is your journey. We have to let you live your life.
Oh, these people are the best, because I always said to my younger sister, and this is so important because in my family, which we were talking about my family, get back to my family. But in my family...
What do you think about my family?
In my family, they were very tough. You were never good enough. And your family, to have somebody embrace your... And I think this is very, very, very important. My little sister told her 3 children that they were so wonderful, so beautiful, and they could do anything they wanted to do. And guess what? Each one of them is the most successful person, and they're terrific. Some of them I wouldn't say, you know, I wouldn't say comb your hair or something, but, you know, they are filled with this feeling that they can do anything they want.
That's a good
And
thing.
that's what your father did, and mother.
Yes, they did do that. And it's, I don't think there's a tougher profession in the world. So if your young kid is going into that profession, I get it. I understand why they would be, have second thoughts about it. But then again, it's my life.
That's
You know,
right.
it's
but
not their life, but they knew when to back off. They knew when to encourage, and when they really were. I was so proud of them. So proud of them. that
it's
They were able to do that.
It's wonderful, and which makes it more possible. We both help each other in auditions because either Jack calls up on the telephone and plays opposite me when Pepe puts the whole place together and makes me okay, or he comes up and he plays the parts opposite me, and he makes suggestions like he did as a director, and some of the things are hysterical. One time they said they wanted Jack to have a full body shot, and Pepe wasn't here to do it. And I'm saying, how am I supposed to do that? You're supposed to move this, and so I'm going like this. I mean, it was so terrible and so funny to see what was going on between the two of us. And the great thing about it is that we haven't gotten anything recently. But Jack's reaction to that is much more healthy than mine, I think.
What are you going to do? It's very difficult nowadays with self-taping. Some actors love it. I do not like it because you have to set up the background and the camera and the reader, and you have to spend a lot of time doing this. You're so busy producing it, you're not acting it.
Yeah.
Used to be two things. Used to be you could really concentrate on the scene, donate a day or two to it, and then walk in and you're spending 10 minutes of your time, but you're so concentrated. When I'm putting up the tarp and the cameras and the batteries and the reader, and I'm forgetting about the script, and you don't have that many days to prepare, and they want you to memorize everything, although they say they don't, but you're not going to sit there with the script and look into the camera and the script. It's just not going to work, and you're not going to get the job. But and also you don't have the benefit of the casting director. I'll give you an example. I did a role on The Deuce on HBO, and I went in, and it was for a John in a massage parlor picking out the whores that are.
Where's the one from 2 weeks ago? A little chocolate cherry.
They're all chocolate cherries. You want ginger?
Yeah.
Where the hell is ginger?
What? Only two of them?
Standing in front of me, and it was great. It was great fun. James Franco was directing. And when I went in for the audition, I did the lines, and the casting director said, okay, you're a sleazy guy. That's who you are. But give me nothing. Just look right into the camera and just say the lines as with this brutal strength that you have and this ease you have. Okay, I can do that. So I redid it, and she was right here, and I was right here, and the camera was right here, and I looked into the camera, and I said the lines with that steel reserve, and I got the part. But it was because of her that I got the part, not because of me. Any actor could do these lines, but the fact that she helped me so much understand the vibe in the room, who I was, and what she wanted, and what the director wanted, and sure enough, she was so right. Mm-hmm. But now I don't get that opportunity when I'm self-taping. I have to guess whether the guy has this, steel backbone, or he doesn't, or because I only get a very short description. So that wonderful casting director who helped me at that moment in time, she got the role for me.
Maggie said, I was going to go back to what she said. She said, I think it's going to be this way forever with the self-tapes. And then Joyce said she thought it wasn't going to be that way because they thought some people were going to did some things, you know.
I don't know. I think it's a question of also people are used to it now. People don't want to go. There are actors who just want to roll out of bed and, you know, they have their tarp set up and they can just do it. I'm not one of those people, but it's also a question of the casting directors. Do they want to go back into the office? Can they get people to come into the office? Because if it's a hybrid work situation.
I think I was twice this happened to me, but one time I went back to the office and everyone who was there said, oh, this is so wonderful. It's so great that you're having this back. Every actor said the same thing. There was not one actor that was there who did not say, this is the best thing that could possibly happen. I just remember having that woman. She was behind the camera and she was doing it and she said, oh, that's wonderful. Now do this. And I went, oh, this is so wonderful. I can't believe it. It is terrific.
It's pretty great. I have a friend of mine who's an actor in LA. And he likes the self-taping because he doesn't like to drive.
Oh, that's
because they have to drive, you know, vast distances to get there and park, and that's a nuisance. And I get it. I totally get it.
And also the state of the internet. I mean, for instance, you know how to do the magical things with everything. And when you said to me, "Well, why don't I just call you on the phone and I'll play opposite?" I went, "You can do that? Okay." And so then we set that up, that I once called you on the phone and I played opposite you. It doesn't sound as good, but, you know.
Well, it sounds, I mean, you
have a person's voice.
Tripod with an attachment for an iPad. So that's what I would photograph the scene with. And then I would there's another attachment for an iPhone under it. So I would call you because you can't video and speak on the phone at the same time on the iPhone, so that's why I have to have two devices. So I do the iPad to photograph it, and then the phone under it, and I have a tripod that has two attachments, and I put you right under it, so your voice is right under the microphone.
Okay.
And it sounds good.
Bigger. I mean, I don't know how you do these things, and thank God I don't have to.
Right.
Because if I did, we would never see an audition of Catherine Wolf's in the world, and I think that it's so important to be able to. My agent will call me and say, see if you would like to go up for this, and you have one day to do it. No, you have 2 days or something, and then I have to get Jack, and my friend who does the putting everything together, and hope we can get everybody at the same time.
Right. You have to work with people's schedules.
That's right.
People are not always available when you want them to be, so it becomes stressful too.
Oh.
Yeah. And then when you have to memorize lines, and sometimes they give you 4 pages, like you just had this past week.
I couldn't
It's
believe
a lot of dialogue.
Everybody said to me, "You just did a 4-minute scene." I said, "I did." Luckily, thank you God, that I had the best. I can memorize lines well, which is a gift because when I had my theater, we had 2 ladies who could not remember one word. That was the worst thing that happened to me. I had cast them. They didn't understand. They had to remember words. It was quite terrible. And one of them even forgot that she had set up a rehearsal in her house. So 2 of us arrived and we called upstairs and her husband said, "What?" It was so terrible. Oh, I mean,
Oh, that's funny.
It was pretty terrible. Anyway. So anyhow, you are also a writer.
Yeah.
And you have written how many plays?
I've written 3 full-length plays. And boy, you think acting stuff. You should go and check out playwriting. It's very hard. It's very, very hard. It always was. But it's
getting into theaters and everything.
Yeah, getting an artistic director or a director to read your script. You got to network and you got to be out there all the time. You got to constantly push yourself and be aggressive. And it's like any profession. If you want to succeed, you got to be active, proactive.
Yeah.
But, art is subjective. So you have to really I really try to target the right people for my plays. Because I know if you're only doing musicals, I don't write musicals. I write plays. I'm not going to pursue you because that would waste my time and your time, and I'm not going to do it. So you have to find the ones that are the right
fit.
The right fit.
Yeah.
And that means going to opening night parties and schmoozing, and it means you really got to peddle your wares.
No kidding. You can do that at an opening night party?
Yeah, because you don't know who you're going to meet. Even if you meet, excuse me, even if you meet the assistant of the producer or the assistant of the casting person, whoever is involved somehow in the theater, and I'm talking about non-profit organizations that have a subscription of and a season of different plays. Those people, they're a team, they're always working together, there's some cohesion there, there's some continuity there. You can get in, you can introduce yourself and say, look, I'm a playwright, do you have any playwriting programs that you're affiliated with, or who do I send a play to? But that happens when you're schmoozing, because I don't know these people. I have to get to know these people in order to peddle my wares. So
that's a hard thing to do.
It is a hard thing to do.
Oh God, I just remember at the Colleagues Theater Company when I had to do that about money. Oh, that's the hardest thing.
That is the hardest thing. Getting people to give you money for a play or a musical, that's hard.
Yeah.
Because they know they're not going to see it back. It's how many Broadway shows that a person invests in make their money back. 1 out of 20. How many shows can sustain themselves getting an audience whereby they just, not only do they meet their weekly nut, but they turn a profit each week? That's really hard. And now the capitalization is so high on Broadway and even off Broadway. It's in New York. I'm not talking about regionally, but I'm talking in New York. It's so expensive to produce a show that till you see any profits, you really gotta either have a big movie star in it, or it's gotta be a phenomenon for it to actually turn a profit, because a lot of plays that are very good and well reviewed still don't make it, still can't sustain enough weeks on Broadway to make a profit. So it's a tough gig. It's a tough gig investing in Broadway.
Well, off Broadway, even anything, when you said you have to get a movie star, and that's the reason I started this whole thing about getting older actors more work. It should not be that there's only one part. And
no, but if one of your contemporaries is a very recognizable face, a character actress, not necessarily a movie star, people like that. People like, oh yeah, I don't know her name, but I know her face, and she's good. She's got a resume this long. It's tough. Acting it's a tough profession.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Because when I was doing the one City on a Hill, everybody was so excited. Oh, it's such a great role.
His guilt will get you whatever you want. A new car, a diamond fucking tiara.
It always is peaks and valleys.
It
always is peaks and valleys.
And this has been a wonderful afternoon for me, because I've always wanted to know how I got this wonderful opportunity with Jack Gindi, my favorite Jack Gindi. And also, he's not just an actor friend, he's a soulmate. So there you go. And I really am so pleased you had the opportunity of meeting Jack, because he's fantastic. And I'm very glad that we had him on episode 4.
Me too.